Control of ants. As a group, ants are the most difficult household pests to control. Too often our first response to a pest problem is to spray. In some cases, spraying ant trails only makes the problem worse. Identification of pest ant species and understanding their biology and management is necessary to successfully control them. Ants have different food preferences and different behaviors that will directly impact the efficiency of an ant pest management program. Improper identification is at least partially responsible for the ant management problems we are experiencing today. Differences between ants and termites. Ants and termites are both insects. Termites, like ants, live in large colonies in the earth or in wood. The individual workers are generally sterile, and the queen lays all the eggs. Their winged reproductives go on nuptial flights, when they're known as flying ants. Termites sometimes have major and minor workers too, but that's where it ends. Features and characteristics. Wings. The ant's front pair of wings are larger than the hind pair. All four of a termite's wings are about the same size. Waist. Ants have a thin waist. Termites have a broad waist. Antennae. Ants have elbowed antennae. Termites have straight antennae. The number of segments or nodes. The number of segments or nodes is an important ant identification characteristic. One-node ants include the Argentine ant and odorous house ant. Two-node ants include the pharaoh ant, pavement ant, and little black ant. Final identification is made from size, color, other body characteristics, and habits. As we can see here, these Argentine ants prefer the protein-based chicken to the sweet syrup, as feeding the queen takes priority over feeding the workers. Treatment methods and techniques. Monitoring, inspection, and nest location. It is important to locate all nests or areas of foraging activity. Nests often can be located by following trails of foraging ants. Indoors, ants nest almost anywhere. For example, pharaoh ants readily nest in attics, appliances, linen, heating ducts, wall voids, and light switches or fixtures. Killing foraging ants rarely solves the ant problem in the home because the colony remains unaffected. Monitoring will find small, isolated colonies that otherwise might be overlooked, and that could cause reinfestation in the future. Use a smear of honey on an index card and place around the structure in windowsills, near water and food sources indoors and outdoors. Once all areas of foraging activity are located, they can be baited. If nests can be located, it can be treated directly. Sanitation. Ant problems occur in homes and structures primarily because food and water and favorable nesting sites are available to them there. Eliminate food sources when baiting. Eliminate sources of moisture. Use a mild detergent to wipe ant trails and remove the trail pheromone, but do not interfere with foraging trails when ants are trailing to baits. Pest proofing. This entails removing access to nesting sites and conditions conducive to nesting and entry. Most ants prefer to nest in soil or wood outdoors, but homes offer many favorable alternative nest sites for certain ants. Cracks and holes in brick veneer, wall voids, and structural wood close to heat and moisture sources are commonly used. Locate the entry point into the structure and seal these areas to prevent future occurrences. Potted plants and firewood should be checked for ants before bringing them indoors. Branches, vines, and other vegetation must be prevented from coming into contact with the house because ants use them to gain access into the home. Pool mulch, a common nest site, 30 to 45 centimeters away from the foundation of the structure. When ants invade from the outdoors, pest proofing is a more permanent solution to prevent outdoor nesting ants from entering the home. Pest proofing can be supplemented with a chemical barrier if the physical exclusion methods are not as effective as needed. Barrier treatments can greatly reduce or eliminate ant invasion into the home. In general, pesticides applied to the perimeter of the structure or to the landscape and lawn are also permissible. However, do not routinely treat the entire premises for ants, as they are generally beneficial in our landscapes. Baits. Effective bait formulations contain slow-acting pesticides that are collected by foraging worker ants and brought back to the colony, where the pesticide is fed to the other ants, queens, and brood. With pharaoh ants, all the feeding stages of the brood must be affected, as well as the queen and workers. Pupae are not affected by baits, since they don't feed. Baits exploit the forager caste, causing them to introduce the toxicant into a previously inaccessible nest. Because the toxicant works slowly, it is not associated with death in the colony, and therefore is continually fed upon. Some ants are fickle, especially pharaoh ants, and are reported to switch feeding preferences. Prior to placing baits, try a taste test by offering several different baits and seeing which is most attractive to the pest ant. Research has shown that insect growth regulators such as methoprene are effective against pharaoh ants. Workers are usually not affected, and therefore the bait is well distributed throughout the colony. Queens that have been fed these baits will fail to produce viable eggs, and larval development is terminated. Insect growth regulators take longer to gain control, but are very effective when dealing with large structures, such as hospitals with extensive infestations. If ants are still present several weeks after the initial baiting, then monitoring and subsequent baiting should be performed again. Liquid baits may be consumed quickly and may need to be replenished often. In storage areas, several bait stations should be placed where they are likely to be encountered by ants introduced from stored materials. Tips for using baits to control house-infesting ants. Use fresh product and follow directions carefully with the correct number of bait stations or material to treat the infestation. Make bait more effective by removing or covering the food sources that compete with the bait's attractiveness. Baits can be contaminated during handling. Never let hands that have touched cigarettes touch bait stations because the odor is a repellent. Wear gloves when applying baits. Before and during baiting efforts, avoid using surface applications of long-acting contact insecticides, often applied to control cockroaches or to ant trails, that would prevent foraging worker ants from being able to reach the bait station. Be patient for the baits to work. It may take 3 to 4 weeks or more to eliminate some of the colonies. Direct nest treatment. If nests are indoors and can be located, treat them with an insecticide registered for this use. Be aware that a foraging trail that disappears into a wall may not always lead to the nest. Dust formulations are preferred for treating nests indoors because they do not stain. They generally give longer residual control than sprays and will fill a void. Apply dust sparingly in thin, even layers in the ant nest area. If nests are located outdoors, individual mound treatments, broadcast baiting and surface application can be applied. Thank you for watching.